Good morning, everyone. My name is Sin Ming. I'm part of the church, okay? And it's my great privilege. What's so funny? Today, okay, later we'll get to the funny parts, but okay. I'm part of the church, and it's my great privilege to speak to all of you today, okay? Today, I'll be speaking on from the life of Caleb. And spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert. I have titled it Yes Again. You saw it on the screen just now, right? I've titled it Yes Again because as we unpack the life of Caleb today, I hope to nudge you to consider this one question, okay? So this is the spoiler. This one question. What would you say yes again to today, okay? What would you say yes again to today? This is the question that I want to be on your minds across the whole message, okay? That's the spoiler. And talking about spoilers, last week, you all had a service last week, right? At the service, Last week, Pastor Tammy started her sermon with talking about, in the world, there are only two kinds of people. Only two kinds. One is the kind who like spoilers, movie spoilers. Because as you understand in the theory that she espoused last week, right? If you understand the end, when you watch the movie, it becomes easier to follow. You can understand all the details better, correct? That's the first kind of people. The other kind of people are those who don't like spoilers. You like to stay on a chair and don't want to know the ending until it finally shows up on the big screen. Correct? That's what she said last week, right? Confirm? Okay, good. You're listening last week. Okay, very good. So, today, I will also plagiarize, copy how Pastor Tammy started her sermon. I will also say in this world only got two kinds of people, okay? There are only two kinds of people in this world, okay? I will do it, I will share it in a while, and I need you all to participate, okay? You all need to participate. So, I'll begin. In this world, there are only two kinds of people. The Android people and the Apple people. Correct or not? Correct or not? Correct or not? I think this is only two kinds only. No more already. No more Symbian. Anybody use Nokia? No. Okay. Anyway, so I need a show of hands. Don't be shy. I need a show of hands. How many of you are Android people? Don't be shy. Wow, very good. Wow, it's okay. Very good, very good. I want to say that I was worried you all don't raise your hand. I was about to say that there are ways to call it differently. It's called inexpensive and value for money. Nobody calls it cheap, okay? Anyway, I'm an Android user. I use Xiaomi one, okay, anyways. Okay, so the rest of you, I suppose you are Apple people. Can I have a show of hand? All the rich people in the house. Woo! Okay, anyway, since there are Apple people and there are Android people, I think Apple have really done a remarkable thing, okay? And today, just opening, I will bring you all down memory lane for Apple products, Ken? Okay? I'll give you all a date. I give you all a date. Your job is to tell me what happened on that day in Apple's history. Can? I'll give you a date. Can don't be shy, you all can one. First one, Apple only. April 24th, 2015. Quite recent, not that far away, right? What happened? iPad. Anyone? iPhone? What? No? Maybe, but not yet. Who? Do you know? Okay, you all look at your watch. How many Apple Watch? On that day, Apple Watch was launched. It was launched. Then after that, then many series came out. Okay? So that was the day where Apple Watch was launched. And today, just for your information, Apple Watch is the most successful wearable product in human history, right? It's estimated 120 million users of Apple Watch today, okay? Anyway, next, how about June 29, 2007? June 29, 2007. iPhone? Anybody else? Cannot. Hey, you all participate a bit, Have iPhone. Okay. It is the iPhone, yes. And on that day, Steve Jobs famously said, he took out a phone, and then he said, it's an iPod, it's a phone. It's an iPod, it's a phone. Get it? It's an iPhone. And then BlackBerry died that day. Okay, but that's another story. Okay, so that is when, 2007, that was when iPhone was launched. Next date, October 23rd, 2001. What? iPod, very good. Okay, you're old enough. Okay. In case, to all the young people, you have not seen this is not a brick. This is called an iPod. If you are cool in 2001, if you remember, guys, 2001, if you are cool, you are listening to MP3. Do we even use that word these days? MP3 player, okay? And last time, large part of the internet was downloading illegally, right? And iPod paved the way to have licensing, and today you have Spotify, so on and so forth, right? So this is truly remarkable, okay? Next date, very important. Close, further away already, maybe harder. September 16, 1997. What happened? 4 years before iPod only, huh? What happened? What? iMac. Any more? That's right. No? Nobody knows. Very good, you're Android people. Okay, this was the day that Steve Jobs returned to Apple. Returned to Apple. Right? That begs the question, what happened, right? What happened was, exact to the day, September 16, 12 years ago, Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple by John Scully, right? The person that Steve Jobs himself hired to run the company, okay? So that is the story, right? Now you can show the next slide. So that was 12 years ago, he got ousted. And of course, as we would say, the rest is history. All the cool inventions, the iPod, even today I saw the news, the earpod, what's it called? AirPod, yeah, AirPod. AirPod, also invented by all these things that we take for granted. They have revolutionized our life in many ways. These were all truly brainchild of Steve Jobs in his second stint in Apple. Okay, first stint he only made iMac. Okay, second stint in Apple, all these things that you have associated technology and 21st century with was during his second stint. This story of Steve Jobs coming back probably ranks as the top contemporary story of comeback kids, okay? People who have said yes to something so long ago, right, in his first stint, right? Started on a journey, but for whatever reason, he was knocked off that journey, right? Then he was in the proverbial wilderness. And then, when an opportunity arose, he said yes again. He came back and do remarkable things, like in this case, making Apple arguably the most valuable brand the world has ever seen, okay? So, when we hear such, what I call yes again stories, something stirs within us, right? That 12 years and came back and changed the world, right? Why? Why does something stir within us? Because we all know that with time, it's easy to get jaded and tired. Visions fade. Visions fade. When the original spark that got you started on something dims, it's easier to give up. Persevering is hard. Saying yes again is hard. So today, I would like to share from the scripture through the life of Caleb and hopefully give us a perspective and some encouragement to say yes again, and may it open up exciting new chapters in your life. Can? Okay, I'll read the text. Joshua 14, verse 6. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land, and I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people sink. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I'm still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now, give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said." Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the land had rest from war. Okay, before we go further, let's pray. Right? Lord, just pray, Lord, that today, as I speak from the life of Caleb, I ask, Lord, that, Lord, you will speak to each one of us here, Lord. And I ask, Lord, that, Lord, you allow me to speak clearly, boldly, and gently, Lord. That, Lord, your word will come forth strong, Lord. Most importantly, Lord, I ask, Lord, that your word will not return to you void, Lord, but you will accomplish all that you desire in the hearers, Lord. Always I hear, pray in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Okay, so from the text I've just read, I need to give you a quick background, okay? Just bear with me. It's a long text, and I need to give you a long background so that you can follow where it picked off, right? So Caleb is one of the 12 spies, along with Joshua, met 45 years ago, sent to spy on the land, right? Spy on the land. And only Caleb and Joshua brought back a good report. Only they believed that they can conquer the land. The rest say, no, it cannot be done. And his generation, anyone who were 20 years and above during the time where they spied the land, right? They had died off wandering in the desert, right? As a punishment. Why? Because they were not allowed to enter land because they lacked the faith. They didn't believe that their God was big enough to help them capture the land. And more than 40 years have passed since, right? And as God allowed, Joshua and Caleb have survived, right? At the time of that conversation that we just read, Joshua, he was the leader of the nation of Israel. He was the leader of the nation of Israel, and Caleb's tribe, right, Judah, is now coming before him, asking for the land to be allotted to their tribe, right? Which land are they supposed to take, right? So the scripture just now picks up in this conversation, and Caleb was asking for an assignment. He was asking for an assignment, a fight he didn't get 45 years ago. Caleb had persevered in the 45 years, and now he stands before Joshua and to the people, because public conversation, right, declaring, yes, again, that he wants to conquer that mountain that he was supposed to have done, what he was supposed to have done 45 years ago, something on his heart for so long, okay? So this brings me to my first point, that what we can learn from Caleb's life, okay? Joshua 14, verse 8, but my fellow Israelites who went out with me made the hearts of the people sink. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So wholeheartedly, right? My first point is we can live a life of great dedication. You see this played out in these three verses I'm reading to you. Verse 8, and then verse 9. So on that day, just go back one slide. It's my fault, not their fault. So, okay, but my fellow Israelites went out with me, made the hearts of the people sink. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Say wholeheartedly. Okay, very good. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Very good. Verse 14, Jama. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Very good. Wow, you're very good there. Okay, so now Caleb followed, it was said 3 times in the verses that I read to you, that Caleb followed God wholeheartedly, right? So what is wholeheartedly? The original Hebrew used in this text, right, is male, like mala, but mala. Okay, anyway, so it means, the next slide, it means to fill or to be full, right? It means to fill or to be full, right? Male. Okay, say male? Okay, very good. It's a picture of being filled to the brim, like a bottle, filled to the brim, right? Whole, 100%. And in Caleb's case, this full, whole, male, 100% was used to describe what? Was used to describe his following of God. That he did not deviate to the left, not to the right? He was male, 100%, laser focus on following God. And that is a high praise, okay? So this is 3 times the text said Caleb was wholehearted. Now, follow me. These slight nuances. You all need to follow me. In verse 9 and 14, if you read, look at what is in the outline, right? It was said of Caleb, okay? It was said of Caleb that he followed God wholeheartedly. In verse 9, who said it? Moses said it, right? Moses was the one who said Caleb followed God wholeheartedly. In verse 14, it was the author of the book of Joshua, which traditionally attributed to Joshua himself, said that of Caleb, that he followed God wholeheartedly. Understand? So it's people say one, okay? But in verse 8, interestingly, it is special because it seems that it was Caleb himself who described himself as following God wholeheartedly, okay? Why is that important? You all get the nuance, right? 2 times people say, 1 time he say, okay? So Why is it important? It's important because you can have certain attributes, okay? You can have certain attributes that people can even observe that of you very clearly, okay? But you might not be deliberate or conscious about it at all, understand? It might just be something that you are, right? For example, people can say of me that I'm tall, dark, and handsome. Hey, why? Right? I don't debate that, right? They can say, wow, Xingming is so tall, dark, and handsome. It's an observation. I don't challenge that, right? But, but it doesn't, by saying that, them saying that, I can say it a million times, it doesn't mean that it's my intention or that I even care about it. Maybe I don't care about it, It's not something I try, But if one day somebody comes to me and say, hey, Xingming, how would you describe yourself? And I say, oh, me, my lasting legacy is that I'm tall, dark, and handsome. Then, if that's the case, right, then, you laugh. So anyway, so if I describe myself that way, then it's logical for you to conclude that I'm consciously trying to be tall, dark, and handsome, right? Tall maybe cannot help, dark can go, handsome will be hard also. But anyway, just saying, okay, it's not by chance if I'm tall, dark, and handsome, if I tell you that, right? I know the analogy breaks down. You already laugh already, or don't like this analogy, but it's okay. But you get the point, right? That when there are attributes that you can observe, but doesn't mean that it is something that you actively try. But if you say that of yourself, it's different, right? So Caleb said that 10 of the other spies, right, the people who went out with him, made the hearts of the Israelites sink, but he didn't. Then he talks about himself. He says that because I instead followed God wholeheartedly. His wholeheartedness, his Malay following God, wasn't accidental, right? It was something that he consciously cultivated. It was his deliberate, intentional, effortful venture to follow God wholeheartedly, to not deviate to the left or to the right. What I think we can apply here is that we should follow God wholeheartedly as well, even when others will not. We can follow God wholeheartedly, even when others will not. As we saw in Caleb's case, the 10 of the 12 spies that went with him didn't follow. They didn't have that wholeheartedness. In our wholehearted pursuit of God, others may not follow. Many will waver out of fear. And I read you an account, same story, of Caleb's story, right? 45 years ago, Caleb and Joshua were first sent as part of that 12 spies to spy on the land. Numbers 13, verse 30. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the man who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They say, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak came from Nephilim. We seem like grasshopper in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. Famous words. The other 10 spies and the rest of Israel followed God to the cups of the promised land. Remember, 45 years ago, they were about to enter the promised land. They spied on it, they were going to enter it, but they didn't, right? But they didn't because they feared. They were afraid of what was ahead of them. They did not believe that their God was big enough to bring them into the land safely. In Singapore, we live comfortable lives in one of the world's safest and most prosperous cities, right? We do not fear being hurt physically as the Israelites did in that account, right? The modern equivalent for us, what we fear would be the fear of losing out in this competitive society, of being shortchanged if we were to give ourselves wholeheartedly, Malay, to God, right? We think that if we give ourselves wholly to God, our time, our energy, our money, our careers even, we will lose out and we will be utterly miserable. Maybe you have tried, right? Maybe you have tried, said yes to God once, poured your time and energy and even money to do what God has called you to do. And maybe, remember Caleb, what we would rightly expect of Caleb, right? After such a long time, you, like Caleb, or what Caleb should have been, could have gotten tired of all the 45 years of wandering, all these things, constant fighting for so long. If Caleb and Joshua, if they had peers, they don't because the generation died out, right? If they had peers, their generation will understandably feel like they have earned the right to retire, all right? After all, Caleb is 85. That means the rest of the peers are in their 80s, right? In Caleb's case, however, he demonstrated that wholehearted pursuit of God is both lifelong and continually vigorous. Say lifelong. Say continually vigorous. Wow, 7 syllables, very hard. Okay, but anyway. So even at 85, retirement is not a picture of wholehearted pursuit of God on Caleb's mind. Okay? He asked, interestingly, not for the land with the easy enemies, but the one that he knows has the Anakites, the giants. Okay? And he asked for the cities that he knows is fortified, built up, hard to attack. Okay? So, what we can apply here is really that we can live a life of great dedication. And it should be characterized by a wholehearted pursuit of God who is both lifelong and continually vigorous. For the young people here, okay, young people, if you are young, my definition is below 35. I'm only 36 anyway. So young, 35. I beckon you to get ready for a long ride. Okay, long ride. You need to develop your stamina and maintain the vigor so that you can be wholehearted and characterized by lifelong pursuit and a continually vigorous pursuit of God. And for those who are seasoned, seasoned, okay, the seasoned amongst us, I urge you to consider Caleb's vigor at 85, okay, and build that into your own version of wholehearted Malay pursuit of God. That's both lifelong and continually vigorous, right? Pause for a moment. Easy to talk about all this in theory, right? Pause for a moment and think about what you had pursued and have been so energized by, say, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, right? Just think about it for a moment. What was that pursuit that was so important to you that you were so energized by 15, 20, 25 years ago? Okay? Then I urge you to ask God again for that same mountain. Okay? Ask God for that mountain anew. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. And I urge all of us to live a life of great dedication, characterized by a pursuit of God that's both lifelong and continually vigorous, even when others might not follow, as we have seen in Caleb's case. Okay? That brings me to my, today very heavy one, but anyway. Okay, so that brings me to my second point, okay? We can live life of great expectation. The text, the part of the text is Joshua 14, verse 10, right? Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I'm still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and the cities were large and fortified, but the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said. Judah was the first tribe to be allotted land. Okay, they are the first. Okay, Caleb's tribe was first to be allotted land. So he could choose. But he made a special request. He wanted, not the easy parts, but he wanted the hill country. It's probably also the best land, but others would be afraid to take. Why? Because, as what I was talking about, there are still giants living there. The cities are fortified, right? Caleb, on the other hand, didn't just look at the problem with all these challenges, right? Instead, he expected great things of God, right? Expected great things of God. I want to distill Caleb's expectations into two aspects, okay? Two aspects. First, an expectation that transcends time. Okay, say expectations that transcends time. Say that again. Expectations that transcends time. Okay, very good. In verse 10, Caleb was harking back, thinking back, years ago when he recalls a promise that God made to him through Moses. It was said, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever. It has been 45 years, and he's holding on to these great expectations. 45 years ago, this was said to him. When now at the cups again, of the promised land again, he recalled these. And then he said he wants to do this. A promise that God has made him so long ago. Again, I ask you to think back. What is that thing? What is something, that thing that you have been so convicted of so long ago? Was it maybe a ministry that God had called you to, right? Or was it that deep conviction that you had maybe on your first missions trip? Was it? Was it an overwhelming sureness and certainty when you're in your youth that you are going to serve God and work in church full time? Was it a salvation of a family member that kept you awake at night? What was it that stirred you up so passionately? What had kept you awake at night, unable to sleep as you waited for the day to break? Why? Just so you can work on that thing again. Do you remember something like that? Has that once exploding enthusiasm dimmed? What happened? Maybe, as it happens to all of us, the shiny things of life, the luxury hotel, the luxuries, maybe iPhones, and new countries to visit, the fame, the feeling of sovereignty, independence, all the good things that you have. Maybe these good things, maybe they have stolen your heart from that thing that kept you awake so many years ago, that God has called you to, right? So long ago. Maybe these good things have kept you away, stolen your heart from that one thing that God has called you to long ago. Caleb had a great expectation that transcended time. He refused to let that dream of conquering that mountain die with time. He refused to let that dream of conquering that mountain die with time. 45 years have passed, and he stares at that mountain, and probably his own hand, wrinkled with age by now, and he says, give me that mountain, right? I'm as vigorous as I was 45 years ago. So, to all of us here, what I want to say is, don't let time hollow out your expectations. Revisit those crazy projects of your youth, right? Revisit those crazy things that God has set your heart on when you were 15, if you're younger, you're 20, your 30s, maybe in your 40s. Live a life of great expectation that transcends time. The other part, another aspect of Caleb's great expectation is that it reflects a big God. Caleb must appear like one of those Xiao On soldiers. You know Xiao On soldiers? Like you go army, right? There are always these Xiao On people who are overzealous, okay? And likely to overexert one, okay? Caleb sounded like one of those, right? Or was he? What was on his mind when he made that request to say that he wants to take that mountain, right? Caleb gave a perspective of what he was thinking of it when he asked for the job, right? I mean, it's clear that it wasn't that Judah was the biggest tribe there, or that he was arguing that he has more qualified people, or there's something unique about Caleb himself. He said none of that. Instead, in Joshua 14, verse 12, he said these two things, right? He said, now give me this huge country that the Lord promised me that you yourself heard then that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said. In verse 12, sanity check, he's saying, he said, the Anakites were there, and the cities were large and fortified. Understand? He is cognizant of the danger and the challenge of asking for this project, okay? He's under no illusion that it's going to be a walk in the park to conquer that mountain. But what's important is, he continues in verse 12. He says, the Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said. The Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said. His expectations were not due to ignorance, neither was it based on human calculation of comparative analysis against the enemies. He knew that to win, he needed the Lord helping me. Say, the Lord helping me. And then he would drive the enemies out, just as God said, right? His expectations were not based on circumstances. It was based on the big God whom he served. Okay? It's often said that when the Israelites spied on the land 45 years ago, we just read that story, the 10 spies only saw the size of their enemies, right? They only saw the size of their enemies. But Caleb and Joshua were different. Caleb and Joshua instead saw the size of their Hallelujah. Caleb and Joshua were different. They instead saw the size of their God. The 10 spies only saw the size of their enemies, but Caleb and Joshua saw the size of their God. It's absolutely true here again in this text in Caleb's point of time life here, right? Do you have great expectations of your life? I hope you do. I urge you to, right? I think if we have that, the main thing is that it should not be based on a confidence of yourself, right? But it should be a reflection of the big God whom we serve. Okay? I'll share some famous words from Jim Elliot, a pioneering missionary who died while spreading the gospel on a missions trip. He says, "Forgive me for being so ordinary while claiming to know a God so extraordinary." Okay, forgive me for being so ordinary while claiming to know a God so extraordinary. Okay, so if you haven't signed up for the missions month, then you can sign up for the missions conference later. Okay, but anyway, the point here is that we indeed, like what Jim Elliot says, we indeed are ordinary people, but we serve a God who is beyond extraordinary, and we can live a life of great expectations. Okay, we can live a life of great expectation. You can overcome. You can be great because of the big God that you serve. Okay? Now, I bring out to my third point. We can live a life of great inspiration. I got no jokes in between because very busy. Okay, anyway, so Joshua 14, verse 13. Okay, then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzites, ever since, because he followed the Lord God of Israel wholeheartedly. Hebron, this is the part, verse 15 is the part that I want you all to highlight, right? Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the land had rest from war. The Anakites are the enemies, huh? Okay, they are the people whose land they are taking over, okay? Caleb's request to conquer the fortified land of the enemy territories likely inspired the younger Israelites, okay? Because, why? Because the hardest part is over. Somebody volunteer and do the hardest job already, okay? The rest of the conquest becomes simpler, more routine, and more manageable, right? So the younger people must be encouraged to say, okay, the hardest part is over. While Caleb personally had faith, it is clear that he was also eager to inspire faith in others. Okay, he was also eager to inspire faith in others. We see this explicitly on display in Joshua 15. Okay, Joshua 15, verse 13. In accordance with the Lord's command to him, Joshua gave to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a portion of Judah, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. We read that already. I will not read the... Okay, I start from verse 15 again. From there, he marched against the people living in Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sepher. And Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sepher. Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's brother, took it, so Caleb gave his daughter Aksah to him in marriage. Not here to debate about whether daughters will be given in marriage like that. That's not the point. But the point here is that Caleb offered he wanted to inspire the young men of his days, right? So what did he do? He issued a challenge, an incentive to the young men of his day. Tell them to dare great things for God, right? He wanted to inspire them. And cutting across time, Caleb's story, his acts, right, what he has done, has been deep inspiration for many of us. That's why we talk about, I'm not the only one, right, who talks about Caleb and Joshua. We don't talk about the 10 spies, right? Because, and in fact, some of us are so inspired by Caleb's story that we name our sons Caleb, right? Have or not? Have lah. Pumpi and Pastor Gracie, right? Anyway, not because, okay, I mean, it's not because it's easy to spell, right? C-A-L, okay, but anyway, maybe it's because, I don't know. But the point is, it's easy to spell, but more importantly, we also hope that our child will know the meaning of their name and thereby dare great things for God, right? I think this must be the intention of the parents when we name our children, right? And here in the text, it says the mountain that Caleb conquered was called Mount Hebron. In verse 15, it explains that the mountain, very, very helpful, it explains that the mountain was previously called by another name. What was it? Don't know. It was called Kiriath Arba, right? After Arba, who was a hero of the Anakites. Once again, the Anakites were the enemies, right? They were fighting on the land. The Israelites were going to conquer the land. So, now, they renamed the mountain. The mountain previously was named after a hero of the enemy, okay? And after they took the land, they renamed the mountain. Now, talking about inspiration, just walk with me, imagine, okay? Imagine, walk with me to this mountain, okay? Mountain, okay. Mountain come out already. So you walk with me. Walk with me, imagine you are an Israelite, 15-year-old, after the conquest. Conquer finished already, now it's called Mount Hebron, okay? Walk with me. You're 15-year-old, you walk with your friend, you say, hey bro, let's meet at Mount Hebron. Another guy say, oh, Mount Hebron, that place, used to be called Kiriath Arba. Then it's like, oh really? Then why is it called Mount Hebron now? Because many years ago, Caleb at 85, still full of vigor for God, believed in God, and defeated the giants of the land and took back this mountain. Cool. When I grow up, I also want to be like Caleb. Okay? Imagine you're 15-year-old. Fair, legitimate conversation, right? Can you imagine or not? Can. Okay, next. Imagine you're a 5-year-old. Okay, 5-year-old kid. Okay? Boy or girl. You talk to your father. You walk Mount Hebron. Walk. Say, hey, Papa, why is this mountain called Mount Hebron? Papa immediately, because many years ago, Caleb at 85, still full of vigor, believed in God and defeated the giants of the land and took back this mountain. Just imagine that, right? I mean, you can imagine how, I'm sure this conversation really did happen, right, in the years after Caleb's conquest, right? Just imagine that. And what's our application? I just want to say that we have our own Mount Hebron here in Brighton. What do I mean? It's in the great legacy of the pioneers and the people who have gone before us, right? Our leaders and our fellow Brightonites, okay? Picture, wow. Okay, very, 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 very busy slide, okay? But first I want to thank Sok Fang and Carol, right? They found these photos. These are not my photos, they're not my generation, okay? Anyway, so they found these photos and they labeled them. Sok Fang helped me label some of them because maybe some of them unrecognizable by now, okay? But anyway, so I just go through one. Please don't be offended if your photo is not here. I limited resource. So Pastor Sally still look the same. Sok Fang looks like Harry's at the top, right? Joyce still the same. Christina married to Elisha. Danny, I think haven't grown up yet, as in that time. young, very young. Pastor Tiak, okay. Then below got a lot more people, right? Okay, a lot more people. Then that one, Shirley, Yan Ting, and then that one is Chin Teck, right? Chin Teck, don't know doing what. Yep. James Tong, Pastor Sally. This one, you know who or not? Pastor Tiak, I don't dare to joke, but okay, Pastor Tiak. Okay. Pastor Tiak and Juliana. Then, this one, Vincent, right? And then Pastor Han Ping. I need to give a plug. I always tell Pastor Han Ping that when I grow up, I want to be like Pastor Han Ping. It's true, I need to say it here. Pastor Han Ping is who I want to be when I grow up. Okay, so and then this one is from Sok Fang one. Okay, but these photos are really old. I think it's 1987. I was just born, man. But anyway, this photo is their youth camp. Okay, Sok Fang, caption it for me and say that this is pillow fight. Okay, I think the intention is to show that you also have life last time, right? You're happening, young and dangerous people. Okay, but anyway, I just want to say that I have limited interactions with these people, right? Really, I have limited interactions. They are, but every story that I've heard never failed to inspire me, right? Brightonites, for example, just a small, short collection, right? Brightonites welcoming newlywed Brightonites couples to their own homes and then giving them the best room in the house, the master bedroom. Why? So that you can get them started on a new stage of their marriage life, right? Do crazy things like going overseas to be a missionary full-time. Not even sure if the church got money to pay him or not, Aaron Cole. But simply out of obedience to God, right? Because this is something that God has laid on his heart so many years ago. And then putting a personal guarantee on a loans taken by the church, right? You do know this, right? I also didn't know this, but I heard this story. Taking a loan, the church take a loan, you put your personal guarantee, right? So that we can buy a place and serve all of you, okay? This is remarkable. Walking away from a lucrative career and the accompanying power and prestige to lead a small bunch of young people at that time, right? And doing that full time. Setting aside first few years of Give to the King, this is what strong impression in my mind. Setting aside 6 figures, sums of money, 6 figures, to give to the King in our annual collection. Not because we have too much money, but because it's a befitting, and in their words, still small reflection of God's goodness in their life, right? Refusing overseas assignment because she's convicted that God has called her to stay and build the church. In my limited interaction with the pioneer generation, even people who have come before me, everyone was refreshing. Honestly, I might not be able to redo what they have done, right? But the Lord helping me, the Lord helping us, right? We will try, right? We will try. And to all the Brighton pioneers and those who have gone before me, I want to say, your story with God inspires mine, okay? You can say, oh. Okay. Anyway, I want to thank you for conquering your own Hebrons so many years ago, that now we can walk this mountain and be inspired, right? I owe you a debt of gratitude that I can never repay. And I look forward to your continual inspirations, right? You have modeled masterfully how to live out your youth, be young and dangerous, play pillow fight, right? And full of reckless faith, right? Would you continue to model what it means to live our days as young parents, parents with older kids, and then how to allocate growing financial resources, and eventually, church can say this one, eventually how to face sickness and the inevitable death, right? At some point, right? Don't try, no need to try, okay? So, all the while, keeping our eyes on the big God that you serve, right? You, our pioneers, people who come before me, are as vigorous as you were 30 years ago, okay, in those photos. Ask God for that new mountain to conquer. And I thank you in advance for the inspiration that we are going to have through your conquest, okay? And young people, if you are below 35, right? I don't know anybody here or not. I think this is the time you can clap for the people. Listen only, Okay. Hey, why you all clap? You're older than 35, right? Okay, anyway, to all the younger people, okay, I ask you to do one thing. Now you look at your shoe, look at your feet, okay? What brand, No, okay, never mind. Joshua 14, verse 9. The land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. I exhort you, younger people, to know that your walk, your journey today, will be somebody else's inheritance and inspiration someday, right? Your walk, your journey today will be somebody's inheritance and inspiration someday. So you too can live a life of great inspiration. Conquer your Mount Hebrons as they come. Don't give up. Don't let up. Don't fail. Right? Okay. Right. Try hard. Right. In closing, I want to say, as I come to the end of the message today, I want to point out one small nugget in the text. Okay, one small nugget in the text. Joshua 14, verse 14. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. This was mentioned in verse 6. Repeated in verse 14 again, this phrase, Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, right? Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite. So, easy to understand, Caleb, son of Jephunneh, that part, no problem, right? Caleb is the son, Jephunneh is the father, no problem. But what about this Kenizzite, from where one, right? So, let's look at Genesis 15, verse 17 to 20. Genesis 15. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking brazier with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, "To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, Kedemites, Hittites, so on and so forth." Okay, other people groups lah. Okay, so what is a Kenizzite? Kenizzite is likely a people group that followed Jacob's family so many years ago, right? Jacob's family into Egypt when they made the move during the famine and Joseph provided refuge with the grains and everything. That's a long story, right? So they probably followed them into Egypt, right? Because Caleb must have been there, right, during the slavery because he was of age when they spied the land, right? Just drawing the historical point. So it's likely that his paternal family, Caleb's paternal family, the Kenizzites, intermarried with the Jews and assimilated into the Jewish culture, right? And were with them when they came out of Egypt. And the Kenizzites threw their lot in with the Israelites. They became a part of the Israelites. If the Israelites survive, if the Israelites are enslaved, they followed them, right? If they're enslaved, they're enslaved. If they leave Egypt, they left Egypt. So what's my point? My point is that Caleb's ancestors said yes to the Jewish community so many years ago. And from an outsider, Kenizzites were outsiders, right? They became part of the trusted cadre of the Israelites, right? Here in Joshua 14, in the text we look today, Caleb said yes again in a poetic way. Originally an outsider as a Kenizzite, Caleb was grafted into the Israelites community, beginning a new destiny as God's chosen people. It wasn't exactly by his choice, it was his ancestors, right? But now, in the story, in what the account that I've read to you, he says yes again to this destiny as God's chosen people, specifically in asking for Mount Hebron. Mount Hebron is a special mountain. Why? It flows with richness and symbolism of the Jewish patriarch. Abraham, we read Abraham just now, Isaac, Jacob, and their spouses, they were all buried at Mount Hebron. Okay? History. Right? So from an outsider to the Israelites, Caleb said yes again. In this case, asking for that mountain, he claims his place right at the heart of God's redemption plan through his chosen people, the Israelites. Okay? I close by addressing three groups of people here. First, the experience. The older one, cannot write old, right? The older one. You have been in church. You maybe even pioneered this church, right? And I humbly say to you that Caleb was still filled with vigor at 85. I urge you to say yes again to whatever new chapter God is calling you to. Don't settle for comfort now, please. Say yes and claim your inheritance in Christ. I hope you continue to inspire me and the generations to come. And to the young amongst us, right? You have watched the older people, maybe your parents even, right? And saw how they love the church sacrificially. I urge you to say yes again too, just as Caleb did. Like Caleb and the Kenizzites, we were all grafted into God's church, called as his beloved. Would you say yes again to be the one in your generation to conquer the next mountain that God wants Brighton to take, and claim your place in the heart of God's redemption plan as Caleb did? Finally, to those of you who are new to this church, okay, maybe it's your first time, second time, first 10 times, okay, but you had said yes to something and that thing brought you here, okay, I want to say that this is not by chance, right? Just like how God's plan for Caleb's ancestors were not by chance. I urge you to consider saying yes again to that gentle prompting of God in your heart. And I pray that you will respond to him. And you will say yes again, and may you enter into the most exciting chapter of your life as God's redeemed people. Let's pray. Dear God, I pray that you will use the message today to help all the hearers say yes again to that one thing that you call them to. I pray that, Lord, you will do the work that only you can do in their hearts. Make their hearts tender and ready to respond to you. Help all of us say yes again as you call us to live lives of great dedication, lives of great expectations, and lives of great inspiration, Lord. We ask for your help, protection, Lord. All this, I pray, Lord, in Jesus' mighty name. And all God's people say, amen.